One easy way to make an SUV sexier is to give it another name, and BMW describes its first ever X2 as a sports activity coupe. Problem is, it doesn't matter how hard you squint, it's easy to see that this is not a coupe at all. But the X2 does look fantastic, and it's clearly out to thumb its nose at convention. Turns out the nose is a handy place to start with, because compared with all of its BMW stablemates, the kidney grille is upside down. It comes as no surprise that the X2 shares a lot of its makeup with its X1 twin, but designers have gone to great lengths to make this car a lot sportier and a lot funkier. So, what do you get? You get these squared off wheel arches, you get this rather muscular shoulder line along the side of the car, and the BMW roundel in the C-pillar, just in case you forget what you're driving. It sits on the X1 platform, so it's got identical wheelbase and tracks, but because it's shorter, wider, and about 7 centimeters lower, it's got a distinctive, though not really coupe-like, look. Also new is what's called an M Sport X pack, which is essentially this grey cladding down here. Now, if you don't like that, they also do an optional M Sport pack, which colour codes all of this and removes that soft rotor look. Right, let's look inside. The cabin gets lots of Alcantara, lashings of double stitching, and an overt sporting theme. Now, the roofline is lower, but they've actually dropped the seats to compensate. So not only do you get ample headroom, there's a nice racy seating position. The centre stack, including iDrive 6, is straight out of X1, but what is unique to this car is the instrumentation, the dash pad which has its own double stitching, and the bolstering is a lot firmer in the seats. Besides that, for all practical purposes, there's really not a lot in terms of space and convenience compared to the X1, but it might be different once we hit the road, so let's go for a drive. When the X2 arrives in Australia in March, we'll be getting the front-driven petrol version. But we've come here to Lisbon in Portugal to drive the diesel all-wheel drive version, which will come later in the year. This gets the typical 2-litre diesel-based powertrain, 140 kilowatts and 400 newton meters, and it's pretty convincing. It's smooth, quiet, pretty gutsy, and at around 6 litres per 100, it's quite frugal as well. Standard issue suspension is a passive sport design, and definitely as the overall character, this car favours sportiness over comfort. Add the fact that the X2 loses 35 litres of boot space compared to the X1, and you sense that it's more about impressing with its galvanic gold paintwork than it is with SUV practicalities. Is that a bad thing? No, not at all, because if you want SUV convention, BMW makes a perfectly suitable X1. But if you're after a really bold statement, the X2 goes a long way away from SUV convention, but without losing some of those practicalities. Just don't call it a coupe. Check out our full review of the all-new BMW X2 on caradvice.com.